meet you, Ben.
I can go next. My name is Afshar. I'm a current pharmacy student at UCSF, and I'm also with my hair pal.
Nice to meet you, Afshar.
To meet you guys.
And my name is Ilya. I'm an electrical engineering master's student at UCSD. I'm also working with Afshar. Nice to meet you
Hi,
all.
Ilya.
Everyone, my name is Sarah. I'm a pre-dental student at UCSD. I'm also one of the principal leaders of UCSD's pre-dental society, which consists of around 300 members. And I'm highly interested in the innovation of dentistry. So I'm excited to be here with you all.
Hi, Sarah.
Welcome. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you all.
Hi, my name is Armin. I'm a fourth year chemical engineering student at UCLA, and I'm part of the My Hair Pal team. It's great to be here.
Hi, Armin.
Okay. Zena, should we give it maybe a couple more minutes to allow people to join and then get started?
I think we can go ahead and get started. And if you can admit the people who just like enter, that would be good. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. We really appreciate you coming here. And we're basically going to introduce what HealthLink is and what we do and who we are. And we hope you get something out of it. So let's go ahead and get started. So the overview, we're just going to go through introductions of our team and then basically explain the entrepreneurial journey that you will experience as a part of our organization and program. And then we'll explain what HealthLink is and the curriculum, upcoming events, and then finally our success stories. So we can go ahead and get started with our faculty advisors.
Murray, you go first.
I'll go first, okay. My name is Murray Riker. I'm a UCSD School of Medicine grad class of 81, physician, inventor, serial healthcare entrepreneur. I've been involved in developing medical imaging technologies, interventional materials for interventional radiology, healthcare software information systems for both hospitals and consumers, and medical devices. And I'm currently just about to start a new job as the Chief Innovation Officer for a company that is in the medical imaging operations business and AI space. And I've been helping students and young faculty in the UCSD environment get their companies launched now for about 3 years, and had really 2 or 3 notable successes.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alex Norvash. So Murray is a creative entrepreneur who happens to be a radiologist. I'm a radiologist who happens to do some management and have had a couple of opportunities to be involved in the entrepreneurial space. Those are 2 very different things. What I mean by that is Murray can come up with an idea and he'll say, you know what, there's really a need to do A, B, C, and D. And I, in a very pedestrian way, can say, well, as I think through it, this is what I think the processes are to go from A to getting something deployed. And then Murray's the one who looks at the pitch deck and understands the capitalization schemes. So I think we complement each other relatively well in terms of the strengths that we bring to the table. The other strength that I bring to the table is, since I'm a chair of a department here at UC San Diego, I happen to have contacts in other parts of the health system simply by dint of my office. So if you say, I want a cardiologist who has familiarity with congestive heart failure because I have an idea for that, well, I can probably find you that cardiologist with expertise and interest in congestive heart failure who's willing to work with you. So I can help you assemble teams, but Murray's the ideas guy and Murray is also the pitch deck guy. So I think together we complement this relatively effectively. Again, it's a student-run organization. We like to be here to kind of tap things in a forward direction and alignment when possible, but we like to let the power really lie in your hands.
Ashish or Dr. Michael, maybe you guys can also give a little introduction.
Yeah, sure. Hey guys, I'm Ashish. I'm a first year PhD student at UC San Diego. I'm focusing on the medical device electronics space. My goal is to try and come up with a medical device by the end of my PhD such that I can actually commercialize it and spin it off as a company. I've done the Stanford biodesign courses in the past, so I have some good experience with this whole biodesign process and things that we talk about at HealthLink.
Great, then it's my turn. Hi everyone, this is Michael. So I am an emergency physician practicing in Taiwan for more than 10 years. And so I have a direct patient care experience. I also specialized in pre-hospital medicine. That means in disaster and also in public health domain. And I have a health informatics master degree, and I know machine learning, artificial intelligence. And right now, I work as a chief medical officer in a startup company in Mira Mesa. So I would like to bring my experience to help you to materialize your idea and make it come true. And also, I would like to help you benefit all the providers and patients. And so I'm here to contribute and learn. Nice to meet you, everyone here.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you. My name is Arshan. I'm on the leadership team of HealthLink. I'm currently a student at UCSD. I am the founder of My Hair Pal, which is a startup here on campus. We're part of a couple different programs such as HealthLink. And I look forward to telling you guys about the wonderful opportunity that HealthLink has with our amazing faculty advisors and affiliates. And I'll be your host for today, taking you through this program. Next slide, please. So we'd like to start by talking very briefly about some of the resources on campus, the entrepreneurial journey, so to speak, and where HealthLink falls into this, I guess these stages. So UCSD's Rady School of Management has a lot of resources for taking entrepreneurship and innovation courses. And we're joined here with Tim Schwartz, who can make an introduction here in a little bit, we've been in contact with to pretty much formulate a pathway for students who are interested in entrepreneurship and innovation to go through certain key courses where they can learn about the academia of entrepreneurship. From there comes the business ideation and generation of business ideas, which HealthLink really can focus on. So HealthLink, as you guys are aware, is primarily focused on health-related startups and business ideas. And we are one of the only programs here on campus that focuses on the development of business ideas through brainstorming sessions with our faculty advisors and mentors and also affiliates. So students who go through our program, we help them and allow them to access a variety of other resources on campus that you see on stage 3, such as the Blackstone Launchpad Accelerator programs, StartR at Rady's, and IGE affiliated with the Jacobs School of Engineering, and help them really situate themselves in understanding the type of resources that are there, but also the pathway of how to navigate the variety of resources that are on UCSD. Those who go through stage 3, go through these programs, have a better validation of their business ideas, are probably doing some prototyping, and make their way to stage 4, which is the accelerator programs, continuation of prototype development, such as stage 2 of the IGE accelerator, MedTech accelerator in particular. And then there's stage 3 accelerator program at IGE, which takes us to the stage 5 of the journey, advanced prototype development, testing. And UCSD has its very own in-house Rady Venture Fund, which will fund some of the projects that are coming out of UCSD. So I'd like to note here that you see HealthLink as on stage 2. However, HealthLink, and once you really join HealthLink, you're kind of a part of this base through your journey, through your entrepreneurial journey, through stages 3, 4, and 5. And we'll be there to assist you along the way with our resources to fill in gaps that you might need, or speak to certain type of clinicians that are in the context of the project that you're doing that maybe some of these other programs might not have. And also really a home base for you to touch and be in connection with our advisors throughout these stages, because they can really be overwhelming. Navigating all the resources on campus and figuring out which one is the right resource for you, because there really are a lot. And the ones listed here are just a handful of the many others that are on campus that we look forward to navigating all the members through. Next slide, please. And this takes us to HealthLink's goal. And our goal is to support several teams and prepare them from the ideation stage to apply to some of the UCSD accelerator and incubator programs listed on the previous slide, and be there to guide them through all the various stages to eventually pitching to investors and so on. So basically, you don't need to come in with an idea. We can help you form an idea, and we can direct you through the various pathways to find what is the right way for you to approach your business idea. Utilizing the resources that are on campus for you to make sure that you are getting the best of all and taking advantage of all the resources that we have here on campus, because there really are a lot. Yeah, next slide, please. So I'd like to talk now about the upcoming workshops and sessions that are taking place through HealthLink. The very first one is taking place January 8th, which is an ideas and brainstorming workshop, which we'll give an introduction to in a little bit here, where students will be able to, again, work with our faculty advisors and our team to brainstorm and come up with business ideas, or work with current members of various labs at UCSD who have novel inventions, who've already gotten funded, but need help coming up with the monetization strategy or creation of the business model. And that takes us to the following workshops and sessions regarding problem state development, finding the niche market, developing the pitch deck, working on doing the market research, coming up with the value proposition, so on and so forth. And throughout these sessions, we will guide you and prepare you to apply to our pitch competition, which is for $2,000 and is really meant for those students that even if they're going through the idea stage and going from the idea and brainstorming all the way through the $2,000 prize stage, those who are coming in with an idea are also welcome to apply. Rubrics on how the pitch competition is going to be scored are going to be sent out probably within the next 2 weeks so people are aware of what is it that we're looking for, how they can be successful in giving a pitch at this competition. Next slide, please. And again, this is just another flyer on the pitch competition. The little code here that you can scan with your phone is there, but we'll also be sending out a follow-up email so everyone has full access. And you guys are also welcome to check out the website, healthlink.ucsd.edu, where there's more information regarding the pitch competition. Next slide, please. I'd like to hand it off now to Dr. Riker, who knows about Epinoma, which is one of HealthLink's really good success stories. So Dr. Riker, would you like to give a little introduction to Epinoma?
Yeah, Epinoma is a company based up in Northern California now. It was started by a UCSD student. As an undergraduate, he had this dream of using epigenetics, that's studying the backbone of the DNA, not really the genetic code, in order to detect disease, because there's DNA fragments floating around our blood all the time. And today, when a patient has cancer, for example, they're placed on medications that are not benign medications, as you know. Nobody wants to be on chemotherapy. And Arshan, this relates directly to what you're doing as well. It's very useful to, in the cheapest, least invasive, and earliest way, to do an assay to determine whether the drug is working. And that's what Epinoma does. Along the way, they've developed an assay that can be used by a lot of companies who are using epigenetics to develop pharmaceutical tests. So they're trying to figure out right now whether they are the test maker themselves or whether they're the technology that makes all the test makers better. And I think they're kind of shifting towards B. Varun Govill, who was the president of HealthLink a few years ago, went on to do a translational medicine master's program at UC San Francisco, where he enrolled the company in Y Combinator. They did extremely well in Y Combinator, and just shortly thereafter closed a $3 million round of seed financing. They have an excellent board of advisors. And so they're up and running. And it all happened because of HealthLink. I'd like to really believe that. The truth is, it happened because a highly motivated, talented individual intersected with people here at UCSD that could provide a little additional motivation and guidance to make his journey more efficient than it might have otherwise been.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Reichert, for that introduction. And Epinoma is just one of several stories that have gone through HealthLink, and also they've been a part of either Rady's Lab to Market or have gone through the IG MedTech accelerators, and have been in touch with us, and we see them growing through getting investment. In fact, Dr. Reichert is an investor himself, and I believe a few of these startups that have gone through. Yeah, and next I'd like to introduce Tim Schwartz, Executive Director of the California Institute of Innovation and Development, and also Dennis, the Executive Director of IGE at the Jacobs School of Engineering. Maybe talk a little bit about yourselves, and also Crescendo, an opportunity for students to get involved with.
Well, I'll go first because Dennis is more important. And you need to hear more from him than from me. I'm new at the Rady School and am anxious to understand how Rady can add value to your experiences, bringing in mentors, funding, business students, whatever it might be. I do apologize. I sent a message out on chat. I have to leave this meeting a bit early, but I'm very available to students anytime you want to talk. Available to connect you with mentors, potential funding sources, that sort of thing. And I'm really encouraged by what Arshan and team are doing here, and happy to help in any way we can.
Thanks, Tim. I'm Dennis Abramsky. I'm the Executive Director for the Institute for the Global Entrepreneur. Been working with formerly BlueLink and now HealthLink, so very happy to be here. IGE has a MedTech accelerator that has worked with several teams. Varun, we were lucky enough to work with him when he was here. And we tried desperately to stop him from going to Northern California, but we were unsuccessful. So, but Murray was absolutely right. He had the drive and the idea, and we did our best to help him. So we congratulate him. But there are probably somebody else on this call that may be in that same boat. So IGE is a collaboration between the School of Engineering and the Rady School of Management. But we work with teams all over campus at different stages. So we're more than happy to work with any of the teams that come out of HealthLink in collaboration. One of the things I just want to stress is there are a lot of things going on at UCSD in this space, but we're all entrepreneurs on the mentoring side and on the clinical side, and we're here to help the teams collaboratively as they go through their journey. So on the screen right now, there's one called Crescendo, for instance, which came out of one of the labs at the School of Engineering, Nano Engineering. And they've been in our accelerator program for some time. And they are at the prototype stage, but they're looking for resources to help them with business modeling and analytics and so on. They've done a lot of customer discovery. They've done a lot of great independent upfront work. But with most startups, the team is the essence. The ideas are usually great, but the team is what executes the ideas. So one of the things that Tim and I wanted to present to this group was opportunities like Crescendo, meaning that if there are either teams or resources or students that are part of HealthLink that want to be help or assistance or resources to other teams on campus, like a crescendo. Those opportunities also exist. So I'm very interested when you get to the brainstorming session part, when you start talking about problem statements and resources and being able to help each other. There's great opportunities in cohorts. The reason you set up a cohort in the first place is for teams to learn from each other. So there are opportunities like Crescendo, which is working on a wearable for continuous blood pressure monitoring. So they are right now in our program, but these are the type of opportunities where either resources or teams within HealthLink, if they have the interest in working with teams like Crescendo in the wearable space, then we'd love to set up some connections with them to talk about what they're doing and the needs that they have. Plus there's some other teams that we had in the microbiome space, et cetera. So the Rady School and the School of Engineering are working together to help these teams in this medtech space. So that's also an opportunity if a Crescendo, for instance, could benefit from some of the resources brought together by a HealthLink. That would be a great collaboration for us to work on also.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Dennis. Thanks for your comments. And we have a student here, Aishan, that you're trying to figure out your graduate plan. And as a graduate student, it's wonderful if you could get hooked up into something that turns into your life's passion and job when you're finished with your graduate program, and perhaps even accelerate your ability to get through. So finding about resources, like this is a good one. I personally, every entrepreneur I've ever met, when they present their idea and I say, you've heard timing is everything, they nod their head. They say, yeah, timing is everything. I say, why is the time right for your project? And the general answer is, well, because I thought of it last night. But the time, it's a little more complicated than that. But I think a very credible case can be made that the 2020s, we're going to see an explosion of wireless remote patient monitoring devices. These devices have been kind of in the works and hibernating for about 10 to 15 years, which is very common in healthcare. And just when you think progress will never happen, you look in the rearview mirror and you wonder how it happened so quickly. So this is, and there's lots of room for collaboration too, because a technology like this, ultimately this data's got to find its way onto the internet in databases. It has to be analyzed. Software has to be written. And somebody else could have an idea that says, they're measuring, flow velocity and blood pressure. I'd like to be measuring human breath sounds or cardiac sounds or abdominal sounds, because that could be predictive of disease, used as a research tool or even later as a consumer device. And if you're developing that type of technology and that's your dream, all the back end stuff, it's going to be the same. So you have an opportunity to pick up creative ideas from other teams, but also co-opt limited resources to develop infrastructure that could serve multiple projects, which saves money and usually increases the quality of what you're developing.
So like when I hear this crescendo opportunity, I mean, there are so many potential downstream deliverables in terms of individual projects or applications. And when you start brainstorming with a clinician, they'll share with you some of the frustrations. For example, right now, if you're an ICU patient, they put a blood pressure cuff on you that blows up every once in a while and drives you crazy all night long while you're lying there. If they take something like this and just stick it on your arm, can you imagine how much easier it makes telemetry dynamically for all ICU patients, or even in the operating room when they're operating? Or how about if you're diabetic and you know that you have some atherosclerosis and you have small vessel disease to your feet? Wouldn't it be great if this could be built into your pant legs and into your socks? So you would know when your pressure drops below a certain amount, and you either have to bump up your pressure or you need to go in and have a diagnostic examination done to understand whether you have atherosclerosis that's causing you to drop below a certain critical amount. Or let's say you have known atherosclerosis someplace and you decide you don't want to treat it. You want to have it treated conservatively. Whatever garment you have might be able to accommodate for that by doing a pressure gradient above and below that atherosclerotic piece to make a diagnosis of when, again, you need to have an intervention. There are just so many applications for something like this, even intra-procedurally. Or even just wearing it normally. Let's say you've got hypertension and you want to start running. Wouldn't it be great for you to know if you're running too much, you're not running enough, you're not getting a result? Well, again, you may want to wear just a smart watch, or you may want to have something like this put in your clothing or put on your body, and you might switch it out every once in a while, like diabetics are doing now for diabetic monitoring. So again, having the conversation with the right people can get you interested in finding that killer app and finding out where that first destination is that you really want to focus on.
Yeah, agreed, Alex. I mean, you've mentioned a bunch of stuff. In diabetes, of course, the last decade, we've seen an explosion of very successful companies in remote patient monitoring. And one of the things we've learned is that the glucose measurement, which was always kind of the gold standard for diabetes, which was taken intermittently, right? You got your glucose drawn when you had a blood test in your doctor's office once every 3 months, if you're lucky, has been not replaced, but largely replaced in a way by another measure called the hemoglobin A1C, which is a better measure of not your instantaneous glucose, but the history of what your glucose has been over a period of time. Now, for high blood pressure, we take an instantaneous pressure in a doctor's office or down at a CVS pharmacy, and everybody knows those pressures are artificially high. Here you would have an ability to track blood pressure in an ambulatory environment all the time, correlate it with somebody's diet, with their behavior. Maybe they only have high blood pressure when they're asleep because they're sleep apneic. It could make the treatment of, I mean, it's a potentially really big deal. So something that a student might want to get involved with, and also an opportunity to, even if you're not directly involved with this team, to be obliquely involved with the team, because you may have an idea for remote patient monitoring that's different than blood pressure, but again, requires solving a lot of the same logistics in terms of software application, infrastructure, web monitoring, security, regulatory. We also had a student that was listening in today that comes from the dental environment.
I believe that was Sarah.
Yes.
Sarah, are you still here?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, so we want to hear about your ideas related to dental innovation, and we want to share some ideas too.
Well, in dental practice, the technology is more prevalent in reconstructive and aesthetic procedures in order to help patients know what they'll look like after the treatment. So I've worked in a few cosmetic dental offices, and what patients really like is to visualize what their smiles will look like versus the dentist telling them all these costly procedures. So we have a lot of 3D technology right now that's growing, like the iTero, which is a 3D scanner that allows the patient to see their entire oral cavity and all their palates and what their teeth look like. And then the dentist is able to create an ideal image of what their teeth could look like after their procedures. So we're seeing a lot of 3D dental technology on the rise, and I'm still kind of doing my own research to see where the 3D dental tech could go, but I know that there's always room for 3D dental technology to evolve.
Well, yeah, I'll share an idea with you, maybe a couple. I've wondered why we do what are really massive gastrointestinal surgery to treat obesity that have significant risk and significant complications. Gastric bypass is not a trivial procedure. Any radiologist, interventional radiologist, knows how often they have to deal with the complications of gastric bypass. The life-altering, irreversible, big-time operation. And it's all designed to help people eat less. It's always seemed to me that, you know, we're overlooking dental solutions for that problem. Many years ago, people would do things like wire jaws shut in order to treat obesity. It was considered inhumane and kind of fell out of favor. I know that there's a startup out of Australia that has brought it back using better technologies so that your jaw is not wired shut, but it's still nevertheless impacted. Chewing is impacted in order to get you to slow your eating, which is a big problem in obese people. So I think that, you know, anytime you evaluate a project, you got to begin by asking yourself, is there a real problem to be solved? Well, obesity is one. And is there a large market that I can potentially serve? And then am I capable of finding a solution that's uniquely better than the things that are in process to solve the same problem? Because there's always competition out there.
So Murray, imagine this. Imagine you've got Invisaligns and the Invisaligns are connected and you can't open your mouth more than 4 millimeters, 4 or 5 millimeters. So there's very little you can stuff in there. And you also have built into it software that says how many hours a day you're wearing it and how often you take it off. And you have a predetermined amount of time you're allowed to take it off for meals, but the rest of the time you're supposed to leave it in so you can't snack. And if you pair that with an app that lets you photograph what you're eating and does an automated calorie count, I mean, there are so many possibilities out there, but it starts with that one idea, like what Murray said. There's a problem, bariatric surgery, it's complicated. It kills a lot of patients because it's very high risk on very high risk patients. There's got to be a better way.
Yeah, I think there are opportunities in dentistry to deal with the obesity problem. And there's so many other opportunities as well, you know. But again, the way something like that gets started is something captures your imagination. You Google around, you go to your literature, you see what's out there. You'll be surprised to find that if you have an idea and you think it's a great idea, there's 4 other people in different corners of the planet already talking about working on the same thing. You begin to investigate whether there are resources available to you here at UCSD and materials management, you know, computer tech science, in the business school that can help you get started. You put together a team of people and you go through what I call product management 101A. You know, you analyze it. That whole process, you know, given that you're a student and you have lots of other things to do and you might only be able to develop, you know, dedicate a few hours a week to something, that might take a quarter or more than a quarter to really, you know, work something out. And in some cases, after 3 weeks, you go, no, not a good idea. We can't pull it off here in the time we have allotted or with the talent that we have available. And other times you go, you know what, this is something we could actually do. And there's a market for it. And there might even be a built-in, you know, a clinic here, a dental clinic here, where they're willing to try it out.
Right. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Reicher, for expanding on some of those ideas, especially and also Dr. Norvash for expanding on the idea that Sarah brought into play. And I think that this is really just a good example of what HealthLink is about. It's about putting ideas out there, things you're passionate about, and getting feedback and getting real life entrepreneurial, you know, really just feedback on your idea, and connecting with folks like Dennis and like Tim, who are affiliated with so many other programs on campus and departments and other heads of departments, to put your team together and materialize the idea that you have or pick up on an idea like Crescendo, not even an idea, an actual technology that's kind of past the prototyping stage, and work to create those business models and figure out those applications in an interdisciplinary manner. So thank you, Tim and Dennis, for giving an introduction to Crescendo, and Dr. Norvash and Dr. Riker for kind of picking up on that and showing about, a little bit about what HealthLink's about. So if we can go to the next slide, I'd like to open it up now for questions and answers. For anyone who has any questions regarding HealthLink, or any one of our wonderful faculty advisors who've joined here today inquiring about HealthLink or any other resource that's on campus, I do ask that if you have a question, please just give your name, major, and year, where you're at in your entrepreneurial journey, and then ask your question.
If nobody has a question, I can mention something to Dennis about Crescendo. Dennis, it's possible that if you're able to measure tissue perfusion, that you could also use it for wound healing. So you can imagine you would put some of these units peripherally around a wound that's supposed to be healing, and you could dynamically monitor it, see if it's happening or if it's not happening. And so if we get you together with a wound specialist in the surgery department, they could potentially help figure out an early application for this, if perfusion is also a possibility beside pressure. I'm sorry, nobody asked a question, so.
Well, yeah, let me just add to that. The technology that Crescendo is using to measure blood pressure, they're looking at using it in other application areas. This is just idea number one. So there's probably 2 or 3 other things that they're going to be working on. They got an SBIR for this first one grant to continue to work on it, but it's not a measure of the technology right now. The interesting thing about Crescendo is where is it best applied? And the brainstorming that was just done today is a good example of when you start to put together engineers, clinicians, business people in a room, and you're not talking about the technology anymore. In other words, the thing works, right? It measures what it's supposed to measure. Now what you're looking at is where's the most benefit, right? Where's the business model? Where's the patient most benefit from it? And so on. And it's not going to be just one place. It's going to be many options. The problem with most startups is you can't do 5 things at once. You have to decide what's the best to go, what's your beachhead, how to move forward. That's why I said it's the team, right? So putting the team together and getting the resources towards that first beachhead is typically where most startups have to spend their time. And that's where Crescendo is right now. So this is a real world, past the prototype into preclinical testing right now. So there are other opportunities like this, but this one right now, we are putting together a tiger team as we speak that's going to consist of business folks, clinicians, and engineers to be able to take this team to the next level. So we're looking at this as a little bit of a pilot. In other words, we want to do more of these. So we're looking at this as an opportunity for HealthLink to be a part of this process. So I'm really glad that.
Well, we haven't, Dennis, we have an ER doctor here with us that's part of HealthLink. I think the emergency room application for this is it's a really interesting potential kind of beachhead because every ER has blood pressure monitoring, and what Alex said is right. It's a major nuisance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you've ever been a patient in an emergency room, the moment you go to sleep, the blood pressure cuff is going to wake you up. Or if you have to go to the bathroom, you have to detach from it. So cuffless blood pressure monitoring is potentially a very big thing in the emergency room, ICU. And what I look at is, do we have those resources here on campus that could be the test bed for such a technology?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer is yes, right? Now you could say, well, what we really think this should be done is in ambulatory doctors' offices or sold out of CVS pharmacies, but that's a big hop, right? That's a much tougher challenge than walking down the block to the VA hospital or Thornton and, already having a friendly home where people are saying, yeah, I'm willing to work with you and test this. Get it through an IRB and let's get to work.
Yep, Murray, I'm sold. I'm just trying to figure out how to get that path.
Well, I think it's people. So
Yeah.
like I said, we have an emergency room doctor here today. If you need an anesthesiologist for the OR, no problem. I can help you find one. Seriously, email me. I have reached out to, they must be very busy because I've reached out to Crescendo a few times. I spent some time trying to help them with their deck, and then life got busy, and they've been busy, I'm sure. And it's so promising that they get a lot of advice from a lot of people. But that's how it happens for anybody listening. And what we've been able to present in this short period of time is really just a fraction of the activities out there, because the mentors that are around UCSD, often inside and outside of one of these organizations, run into people that they help. I can tell you 2 or 3 companies that I've helped get started that are started. They're really doing well, and one of in particular has just gone gangbusters. Here in San Diego, they're in drug discovery, and even something like that offers potential opportunities for students who say, you know what, I don't have to start a company. I just want to be employee number 31 in a company that just got funded to the tune of $110 million. That's also a huge opportunity, right?
I think we have a question. Ben, would you like to ask a question?
Yeah. So I'll just kind of give a little bit about information about myself. Yes, my name is Ben. I graduated from UCSD in 2020 with the human biology major. And my career goal is to become a physician. I'm applying to med schools right now, but in the past year and a half or half a year, I've been working with Arshawn directly and kind of developing my entrepreneurial mindset. It's something that I didn't think I had, and I've just been learning a lot of things along the path. So I had a couple of questions, and the first one is, the more and more I've been involved in the project with Arshawn and the rest of the team, the more I've been considering and open to one day in the future when I'm a physician starting my own startup or some kind of business venture. But I wanted to get some thoughts on what you guys think some of the challenges are with going through med school, and balancing that with being more entrepreneurial minded and business minded in a way, and what steps I can take during med school to be able to accomplish both things.
Alex, you may want to comment, but I'll be happy to jump in. The first job you have as a medical student is to be a happy, successful classmate and learn how to be a good doctor. Okay, that's that, and in that order. Can't be a good doctor if you're an unhappy medical student or a bad classmate. So you have to, work with your class, collaborate, find the joy in what is an enormous amount of hard work and constant evaluation, and learn the science and art of being a doctor. However, keep your eyes open in medical school and immerse yourself in every opportunity. So, when you're doing your surgical clerkship and they ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up? Your answer is a surgeon. When you're doing radiology, you want to be a radiologist. And that's not just, I'm not telling you to lie. I'm saying that's the way you've got to wrap your mind around medical school. Because if you are a guest in a clinical area where you and the people teaching you think, you're going to be gone in a couple of weeks and that'll be that, what you get out of it is way less than if you completely immerse yourself in it. And when you do that, you're going to see the problems and write them down. Don't have any fear that when you're in medical school, if you see a problem, that problem will have been solved by the time you get out and you'll be too late. problems in medicine have a way of lingering. So, become intimately aware of the problems that you face as a student going through medical school, and that will, for the rest of your life, inform your approach to solving problems. And often it's solving those problems.
And I'd like to add that this is a really good question for a lot of members. Since this is a health-oriented accelerator program, a lot of the students might be pre-med students or looking to apply to medical school. And you guys are going to get really access firsthand to physicians who've successfully gone through medical school, who've successfully navigated entrepreneurial journeys, and who are here now to help you and make it more efficient as you go down your path.
So Ben, what I'd like to do is I'd like to piggyback on what Marie said. We're all different. Some of us need to focus on one thing to a tremendous degree to be able to be successful at it. Others of us are easily distracted. We'll never be great at doing one thing, but we're good at doing 6 or 7 different things. So I think the first thing you want to do is kind of take an inventory of yourself in terms of what kind of a learner are you, what do you enjoy doing, because your greatest responsibility in medical school is to become a good physician. And what that means is you need to put a certain amount of time and effort into becoming a physician. If you spend less than that, you're either going to be unhappy with the results, or you're not going to be as successful, or you're not going to be as good as you want to be, you're not going to have that domain expertise you want to have. So we look at a lot of applications. Radiology happens to be attractive again for a lot of people. And we had 1,300 applications for 10 spots. And so I'm a part of the interviewing committee. We looked at a lot of these applications. There are a number of medical students out there who have been CEOs of startup companies. However, there are a lot more people who've tried to do it and have failed one way or another. And so you need to know how you can apportion your time effectively to come out of medical school becoming a good physician. So that's one of the central challenges. I did my first startup when I was a faculty already for 2 years, and I've done 6 different startups, and one of them was pretty successful. So it takes time. It takes time, and it takes a number of rounds of doing it. And you also have to figure out what it is you want to do. I personally don't ever think that I would be a good CEO of a startup company. That's not something I'm interested in. You may be interested in that. One of my fellows when I was at Stanford came up to me and said, I want to be a CEO of a small startup company. Can you get me started? So I got him connected up with a company, and he became a chief medical officer of a company. Then he became a VP for development. And now he's started up 3 companies, and he's done very, very well. He's a big shot in Silicon Valley right now because he knew that's what he was going to transition to full time. Because the odds of you being a CEO of a giant startup while at the same time being a very successful clinician are very, very low. The issue is, what do you want to gain in terms of skills and experiences? And so HealthLink is going to provide you with a certain set of experiences, but you're going to have to decide at some point if you want to be a physician who happens to do some startup stuff on the side, or if you want to be an entrepreneur who happens to be a great physician.
If I may add, I'm looking quite a bit at the sort of ecosystem that UCSD has around entrepreneurship. And one of the things I've noticed, and I wish Dennis was still on to be able to comment on this, is that for busy students, which medical students are probably the top of the list,
the busiest,
next to maybe chemical engineering majors, the access to entrepreneurial content is challenging because most of it seems to be, and I think HealthLink may be an exception in this regard, seems to be a multi-week commitment and several weeks on that in that regard, or a full class or something like that. So trying to get your toes wet on certain or a taste, a bite of certain topics around entrepreneurship is not easy without signing up for a multi-week commitment. Now, I may be wrong because I'm still assessing the ecosystem, but that's what I'm seeing so far. And I think that's a challenge for those that aren't sure about entrepreneurship and a challenge for busy students, just period. So I'm trying to create and look at and validate what I would say are bite-sized chunks, bite-sized ways to get tastes of what entrepreneurship is about, different topics. And the sky's the limit in terms of what we can offer. It's a matter of how we do that effectively, efficiently, and without duplicating. And again, providing it in a way that's accessible to busy students.
Well, and I think Rady's done that very effectively with the micro MBA and the mini MBA in terms of trying to find learning paradigms where you can take information and let people know what the framework is and decide on how much they'd like to fill it in.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to move on now to our next question. Ashish, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I guess my question was mostly towards Crescendo, and it was towards Dennis and Tim. Dennis, I guess, logged up. So Tim, to you, I just wanted to know what stage Crescendo is at, and what kind of people are you actually looking out for? I did mention a bunch of majors, but I wasn't really sure what's the stage and what are they looking out for. That was one, and another question was basically about the mini and micro MBAs. Are both the programs still on, or one of them is not on? I just wanted to clarify on that.
Well, so to Crescendo, my sense of it, and Dennis does know more about this than I do, is similar to what I heard when I came back on the call, which is finding the right beachhead market. They've already have a I'll call it beta, maybe it's a little more than that, beta prototype that is proven. As Dennis said, it's not a matter of the technology really working, it's a matter of identifying the first and most effective, efficient market to approach. So in that way, Dennis and I have been talking about these sort of tiger teams, and that is putting together MBA students with engineers and clinicians with that market focus, but there may be more than that that the team needs. But that is from the conversations, and they've only been briefing over just the last couple of weeks with Dennis. It's that combination. And I personally always believe in multidisciplinary teams being the most effective. You don't just put business students on a market issue, right? I think that's a mistake. You need the engineers to inform that. You need the clinicians and others to inform that as well. So even though it's a market question, it's a multidisciplinary approach. So that's my limited knowledge of that. And I apologize that I don't know more, but I can certainly find out from Dennis, and he left his email in the chat.
Yeah, I'll reach out to Dennis as well.
Okay, and on the micro and mini MBAs, to tell you the truth, I'm still trying to figure that out myself. Most of that was, and I just begging ignorance and raising the new guy card. I'm hoping that to have a conversation with Vish Krishnan after the new year to see where he stands on that. He's been the primary driver of those. But there's also a lecture series that I'm looking to put together this spring that is back to this sort of objective of bite-sized opportunities where you come in for an hour and a half. It's got I consider these programs that I try to put together and that I've done so successfully at other universities to kill multiple birds with one stone. But the micro and mini MBAs is certainly one way to go, but I'm hoping to put together programming that allows you to come in and out to grab topics and content and networking and information and meeting fellow students, et cetera, whether it's based on investments, whether it's based on intellectual property and law, whether it's based on, again, the number of topics just goes on forever. But that's the kind of lecture or programming that I'm looking to try to put together sooner than later. Such that if the micro MBA, there's a long way around saying if the micro MBA doesn't happen for some reason, there will be other ways for you to get good content.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. That's really appreciated. But also, I'm just hoping that that's actually open for all the health students and engineers and radio students at the same time.
Oh, but the way I'm looking at it, it's open to everybody. Undergrad, grad, community, alumni, students. I want the world in there because to me, that's where the magic happens. It's about the networking.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. Really appreciate it.
Well, so before we conclude today,
we actually have one more question.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Julian.
Hello. Yeah, so I just had a quick question, I guess, in terms of the program overall, HealthLink. I think everything that's been discussed today is like super fascinating. And just a little bit about myself. My name is Julian Fricks. I'm a first-year medical student at UCSD, and my background is in bioengineering in undergrad. And I've worked briefly in medical device development, and that's why I'm sort of really excited about the intersection of engineering and healthcare. So from my perspective, I'm more excited about the engineering side of things and less excited about the business development. So I was just curious what kind of opportunities there were on that front, sort of to get our hands dirty, maybe in like prototyping and helping in development of these newer technologies, and what we could do, in bite-sized pieces?
I think the opportunity is driven by you. And first of all, and as a med student, the amount of time that you have available. It's tough for med students to do this. Not impossible. Some are doing it. So you have to decide, first of all, is there a project out there at UCSD, maybe one of the ones we discussed today, where you are inspired to get involved? Or is it the opposite? Is it that you have an idea for a project that needs to be done and you're looking for collaborators? Do you know?
I don't have any ideas at the moment, but always looking. That's a great thing about being in med school, is that you have so many opportunities to think about these things.
Yeah, I mean, you may. Go ahead. Somebody's.
Oh yeah, yeah. If I can add, yeah, with Tim and Dennis and some of the projects that are currently going through IG's MedTech Accelerator, there are a couple of projects that we can maybe point you towards. There's also a couple of projects in-house, like My Hair Pal, for example, that's also developing wearable devices to look at things like a blood perfusion, for example, to track drug efficacies, that we can also hook you up with to learn more about. Yeah, Dr. Ecker, were you going to add on to that, or?
Well, just one thing I want to say before the meeting was over, Dennis, and it's been great reconnecting with you as we do every year. And Tim, welcome as a new asset to UCSD's entrepreneurship capabilities. What I look at this meeting, and there's 2 individual students, and then there's a team that's already figured out that this is your team. So the one room, we've got room for improvement in that we need to get better, all of us, in recruiting and finding the students. I mean, I guarantee you, there's out of 40,000 students at UCSD, there's more than a half a dozen that are interested in starting a business or that have an idea to make a business better. So I think that's a big challenge right now. Is I think we've actually developed some really good programs and have mentors at UCSD, and through our connections and ability to bring people in, even in from the outside. There's money available in San Diego through grants and also through venture capital, early stage venture capital. So I'm open to anybody's suggestion, but when you say we have workshops coming up, I want to do a workshop with your hair loss assessment product, but I don't want that to be the only one.
Murray, to your point, and I'll bet you it's several percentage of the students who'd be interested in this if they knew about it and if they understood what we're asking them to do. Even if only 1% of our students were interested in this, that's 400 people. 1% is 400.
I know.
So, and we know that when you talk to a random person, it's multiples of 1% that are interested in this space. And so we're not reaching them somehow. And so if any of you have a suggestion for how we can better engage the interests of those potential parties who could participate in this work, that would be really valued.